This is the Into The Paddock Podcast.
A lot of people, as soon as Max retired, thought, okay, we've got a race on our hands now. But owing to Carlos's sheer pace, that didn't happen. But it wasn't just him. All the way down the grid, there was I'm not going to say a surprising, because it's Formula One, just a sheer lack of overtaking. A sheer, this is Albert Park. It's a track that's got huge DRS zones. And there was still fuck all overtaking. And the most frustrating thing was, I think this was one of the most evident races we've ever had for the dirty air that these cars aren't supposed to have, but still do. You could see the cars getting closer and closer on the straights, and as soon as they hit any kind of corner, you could visibly, because there were a lot of aerial shots due to the helicopters, and you could see the cars just there was like an invisible hand pushing them apart. It's Formula One's problems aren't Max Verstappen, they aren't Red Bull. There is fundamental problems that we have spoken about so many times on this fucking show. Car design, the weight, the just everything about them. The fact that they brought back downforce for an era where they were trying to get rid of it to aid overtaking. The problem isn't with Max, and it isn't with Red Bull. And I do wish people would stop saying, "Oh, it's Red Bull domination is killing Formula One. Max Verstappen's domination is killing Formula One." No, Formula One is killing Formula One.
Yeah, it's their regulations that made the Red Bull domination possible.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And just to give Red Bull all of the credit, I think is a bit of a misstep. Right? Yeah. Because it is the sport. It is the regulating body.
Yeah, the formula with Formula One is the problem. Currently it's Red Bull that's dominating after a decade of Mercedes dominating, and then before that Red Bull dominating the first time around. It's nothing new with Formula One. The regulations don't promote good racing. They sure have some bleeding edge technology underneath the skin of these cars sometimes, but they don't really go in depth and explain it or show it to the fans because it's all proprietary. So it's almost meaningless to you or me as a fan watching the racing and then them being in a train. It's a very fast train, but it's not a fun train to watch. The cars be in procession, not have real battles or racing around the track. And I heard other people talking like, "Oh, why don't they just give them push to pass instead of DRS?" Well, the cars already do have push to pass with how they deploy their batteries, and they still can't overtake. So they have DRS and push to pass. They still can't do anything racecraft worthy, and then the only display of racecraft got penalized because of someone else's mistake. So
right.
Yeah, and we will get onto that very shortly, because that was another major talking point from this race. But yeah, I mean, you can have a field be as close as you like in terms, qualifying continues to get closer and closer between the entire field. But that's not what matters. What matters is the ability to actually go racing, and racing involves overtaking, and that just doesn't happen when the cars can't get close to each other. We're almost back to exactly where we were with the 2021 regulations. Except the cars are slower. Now, I'm not one of those people that thinks Formula One has to be really, really fast. So long as two cars are close in pace, it doesn't matter how quick they're going, they can race. In Formula One, they can't race, and that's the fundamental problem. So, yeah, this was just the race that demonstrated that you can remove Max like you can remove an appendix, but it's not going to make it better.
And even then, after Max left the race, the cameras were still following him around.
Yeah, this is the one chance we have to not look at him. Let's not. We don't see him much anyway, because he's usually 20 seconds up. But
they cut away from. I don't remember what was happening on the track, but they cut away from that to show him walking around with his escorts. I don't know what they're fucking called. Right, just his
entourage,
team of
security.
His team of people that walk around. The little girl with the microphone that records every word he says to anybody, so they can review it later. But yeah, I don't want to look at that.
Yeah,
I want to watch the race.
Yeah, where there is one. What that does, Red Bull prior to this dominating period, they were always known for having a car that was quick but a little bit fragile. We don't know what caused the brake to stick on, whether it was a problem or not. We know that Perez also got a little bit of hindered in this race due to a visor tear off, getting stuck where it shouldn't. That car is vulnerable. All of these cars are. They're so fragile.
Yeah, they're not.
Obviously, in a very unlikely, but you never know, kind of scenario where in around the mid-season, other teams start catching up to Red Bull, they might come to rue this loss of a podium or a win at a point where their car is obviously the fastest. You know, I'm not saying I don't like Formula One. I don't want to inject any artificial excitement into it, but at the moment, Verstappen only leads the championship by 4 points to Charles Leclerc. You know, this could be at a point where Red Bull definitely have the fastest car. If things start to change as the season goes on, this could be quite crucial. So you never know, especially if the reliability continues to be a little bit wearisome. I mean, even in the first 2 races, we've heard that Max isn't entirely happy with the car at some points. Yeah, we'll just have to see how it shakes out. But first 1-2 for Ferrari in a while. I'm trying to think of the last
it's been
time.
A minute.
Long time.
I think it must be Singapore 2019 when Vettel won and Leclerc finished second, perhaps. That's just a guess. Could be completely wrong, but it's been a while. And I maintain it's so nice to see Ferrari win just because they have happy national anthems. I'm not sick of the Dutch anthem. Well, I am sick of the Dutch anthem. It's just a better anthem. Like, nothing against Holland, but I mean, come on. Like the Spanish anthem's great and the Italian anthem just makes everything better. I just hope we hear the Monegasque one soon.
Yep, but those are sunny places, versus, Holland is on the same, geographical position as the UK and Seattle, where it always rains.
You might be onto something there. A nation's anthem is only as good as its weather. I'd never thought of that correlation, to be fair. Anyway, yeah, that might be something for another podcast that's to do with geography.
This is the Into the Paddock Podcast.